Very good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of philosophy, the Stuart Close Philosophy, and we're discussing very important chapter from it, the scope of homeopathy. And in yesterday's lecture, we have discussed about the five important criteria which are called or which are covered with the name of Dex exclusion criteria. That means which are the not the fields of homeopathy, that if you exclude that, whatever remains is the inclusion of criteria. And that's why Deck has explained five important things. The first thing which he has explained, homeopathy never shows a primary role if there is a if exciting cause is acting over there. That is the first thing which he has mentioned. Number two, whenever after removal of exciting cause, if the disease symptoms vanishes, then there is no primary role of homeopathy. That is second point which he has highlighted. Third point, if patient has an injury which is irreparable type of injury, then there is no question of primary role of homeopathy. Fourth point which he has explained, that whenever the vital force is suddenly suspended because of some reasons, or it is depressed, and at that time there is no direct primary role of homeopathy. And last point which Deck has explained, that if there are no signs and symptoms which are expressing, but there are some congenital defects where the functional manifestations are not present, then there is no question of homeopathic prescription or primary role of homeopathy. So these are five exclusion criteria of Deck. And after that he says, if these are not present and still the disease persists, then definitely it has a meaning that it covers under the scope of homeopathy, where the cause of disease is always at the level of specifically in the dynamics. So this is what we have discussed in yesterday's lecture. We were there on page number 44. Close has added five more points in his Dex exclusion criteria. Out of that, in the third point, he has added these 5 points, and those which are very important. Not in qualifying, yes, third. So we were there on page number 44. Let us start with that. Again, quoting Deck's admirable exposition, but qualifying his third proposition and adding a fifth paragraph. The domain of similia may reach by another route. Looking at the various drugs and other agents is capable of influencing health and advancing. As before, by method of exclusion, it may be said, number one, the homeopathic law relates to no agents intended to affect the organism chemically. So, homeopathy never produces any type of primary action. So, there is no directly chemical action which is there with the homeopathy. So that is one more criteria which Close has added in the Dex exclusion criteria. He says that there is no medicine which is intended to produce any chemical reactions inside the body. So organism should not get affected chemically. Number two, it relates to none applied for mechanical effect simply. So that is another point. Homeopathic medicine never acts mechanically. Number three, it relates to none required in the development or support of the organism when in health. So there is no question. For example, person comes to you and patient says that I want to increase the height. Patient is in health. There is no question, and patient wants treatment. There is no question of giving the medicine specifically in the state of health. Number four, it relates to none employed directly to remove or destroy the parasites which infest or prey upon the human body. So there is no directly anti-helminthical medicine. Yes, there are medicines, but they never kills the worms. There is no wormicide in homeopathy. The worms, there is a synergistic relationship, and because of which they never gets or troubles the human being if the human is in the state of health. And that has very clearly explained by Hahnemann in the introductory part of the organ of medicine, where he has mentioned how to treat the cases where the worms are present, and he has explained how the worms how they are not troublesome to the human being unless and until that human is deceased. Looking over the armamentarium of the therapist for the agents not excluded, one class is found, namely those agents which affect the organism as to the health in ways not governed by chemistry, mechanics, or hygiene, but those capable of producing elements similar to those found in the sea. In regard to Deck's third proposition, it can and will be shown that inasmuch as the development and support of the organism, when in health, depends upon the principle of assimilation, as demonstrated by Finke, the principle of similia does relate to the process to these processes. For assimilation depends upon mutual action, upon action and reaction, and this is fundamental principle of the homeopathy. To the foregoing propositions as formulated by Deck, one more should be added. The homeopathic law relates to no agents or drugs administered for their direct or so-called physiological effect. So this is one more. There is no medicine which acts physiologically, or it should not be given for the physiological action. So these are five important additional criteria which Close has said, and those who are students over there and who wants to appear for the exams, for them it is too much necessary to know these things. So if they want to write the answers, they have to write all those 10 points, 5 already explained by Deck and 5 more added by the Stuart Close. And these are totally called as the exclusion criteria, or where homeopathy never directly plays the role. Indirectly or secondarily, homeopathy can play the role, but not as a primary role. And these things are very, very important to understand. So if we are defined, yes, this is the place where homeopathy never works, then we should not try. Yes, there is a role of homeopathy after surgery, or there is a role of homeopathy after effects of poisoning. Definitely it has, but not directly over there as a primary role. And if you understand these things, then definitely it works. And then he says further, circumstances arise occasionally which make it necessary temporarily for the homeopathic physician to use drugs in physiological, really pathogenic doses for their palliative effect. Occasionally, you have to utilize the pathological doses, or which are called to be a physiological doses. When it happens, when the patient is in agony, for example, patient comes to you with a very severe state of asthma, status asthmaticus, and he is not able to breathe, and he is absolutely in status asthmaticus condition where it is necessary to dilate his bronchi, then there is no time to find it out exactly, and you are not able to catch the remedy, then it is definitely needed to settle that patient immediately. So you can use the blatta mother tincture in physiological doses so that it will work in the primary action, makes the dilatation of the bronchi, and patient will temporarily feel better. Then you take that case, then find it out the modalities, find it out exactly the picture of the patient, and find it out the patient's remedy. So in certain cases, if patient is in agony with a status epilepticus and you have to stop those epileptic attacks, then it is necessary to give the patient very specifically the anticonvulsant like absinthium mother tincture that immediately palliates the situation, that will not cure unless it is specifically indicated on the basis of totality of symptoms. So certain times you require physiological effects, and those are in certain essential conditions. Although the ruling principle of its medical practice is cure by symptom similarity, and that end is always held in view as an ideal, is not thereby forbidden the use of palliative measures in cases where they are appropriate and necessary. So this is what he is explaining over there, that these are the conditions where sometimes you may require the palliative effect for the time being to settle that patient. Hahnemann, after showing the futility of antipathic medication as a curative method and pointing out the dangers of incidental to its use, admits the utility and necessity of resorting to the palliation in certain emergencies. In the note to the paragraph 67, he says, so Hahnemann himself said that there is no need every time to palliate the condition. but there are certain conditions where it is necessary. And that also he has explained in the Organon in the footnote number 67. That is, it is a footnote to the paragraph 67, and where he has mentioned very specific things where he says that these are some conditions where you require palliative effects or antipathic measures to tackle the situation and to bring the patient out of danger. And those he has mentioned. But these are things which Hahnemann clearly mentions about it. What he says, only in the most urgent cases where danger to the life and imminent death allows no time for action of homeopathic remedy, not hours, sometimes not even quarter hours, and scarcely minutes, in sudden accidents occurring in previously healthy individuals, for example in asphyxia and suspended animation from lightning, from suffocation, freezing, drowning, etc., it is advisable and judicious at all events as a preliminary measure to stimulate the irritability and sensibility, the physical life with palliative, as for instance with gentle electric shocks, with clusters of strong coffee, with a stimulating odor, gradual application of heat, etc. When this stimulation is effected, the play of vital organs goes on again in its former healthy manner, and or for there is here no disease to be removed, but merely an obstruction or suppression of healthy vital force. To this category belong some various antidotes to sudden poisoning, alkalis for mineral acids, hepar sulfuris for metallic poisons, coffee and camphor and picacuna for poisoning by the opium, etc. So here he explains that there are certain conditions, for example, a suspended animation state. That is, patient is in such a state where there is a question of death and life. And in case of shocks, in case of drowning, hanging, etc., and you have to bring that patient immediately out, then you have to take the help of such measures. Such measures are very, very, very much necessary. That time you don't have to, there is no time to find it out what is simillimum or etc., because it is not a dynamic disease at that moment. At that moment, it is the condition which you have to take patient out of the danger. It is in the depressed or suppressed vitality. That vitality you have to bring back again into the life. And for that purpose, he explains the role of antipathy or auxiliary measures which are necessary. If heart has stopped, yes, you have to use the defibrillation. Yes, that are Hahnemann himself have mentioned. So these are the things which are very much necessary when it is the specific condition. So it depends upon circumstances. You cannot make a specific rule. Yes, this is the case and you should use this. It is not. It depends upon that situation. And this he clearly mentioned over there. The principle of palliation here is here recognized and few illustrations given of its legitimate application in one class of cases. If it is noted that all these illustrative cases are characterized by shock or collapse, it will be seen that the principle has somewhat wider application than appears on first consideration of the cases enumerated by Hahnemann. It may fairly be extended, for example, to cover certain cases where sudden and unendurable pain occurs, and the collapse is threatened by such semi-mechanical conditions as the presence or passage of renal calculi or and gravel or biliary concretions. In exceptional cases of these and similar conditions, analgesics may be used temporarily as anesthetics are used in surgical and dental operations and for the same purpose, that is to prevent or relieve the shock. See, Hahnemann, Stuart Close has clearly mentioned when it is necessary that you must understand. If patient is in agony and there is no chance to find it out a remedy, if you are a very intelligent physician, yes, you can catch certain things and you can give the remedy. But if it is not so, Hahnemann says that it is always better to come back in the battle certain times to settle the patient, because otherwise patient may land into the shock because of pain, which is called as a pain shock or vasovagal shock. And for that purpose, whenever there is a passage of biliary calculi, it is so painful. Passage of renal calculi, it is painful. Sometimes it might require. And those conditions, it depends upon the physician's ability and confidence. If you are damn sure, there is no question. But if you are not damn sure regarding it, then definitely you must take the help of certain times about those antipathic measures and that he mentioned. So one must know what to treat and what not to treat and what is our limitation. When all has been said and scope of homeopathy has been defined as clearly as possible, it is evident that there is a borderline between homeopathy and its related sciences, around which it is impossible to draw a sharp line of demarcation. In this region, each physician must govern by his own individual judgment and circumstances of the case. It follows that there will be always differences of opinion between the individual physicians under such circumstances. The physician who is imbued with the spirit of homeopathy endeavors always to keep his mind open and free from prejudice, while striving always to perfect his knowledge of homeopathic technique in order that he may meet any emergency and extend the borders of his art to the farthest limits. He never forgets that necessities and welfare of his patient are first. So it depends upon you. How do you think regarding the treatment? Sometimes it is possible that you are doing your best, but still patient's pain is not coming into the control. Day before yesterday, 3 4 days back, there was a case, and patient had a very severe pain in abdomen. First, it was started with the epigastric region, and then it has settled over right hypochondriac region, and it was turning going towards the back. It was not relieved. I have tried my level best for half an hour. Naxomica not worked, then chelidonium has not worked, bryonia not worked. And pain was very typical. Slightest movement used to aggravate. All those modalities I used to check, recheck. It was not getting settled. It was looking like it was typical cholecystitis pain or it is typical of gallbladder calculi pain. But it was so severe and it was going from directly from the right hypochondriac to the back. It was typical chelidonium like, but it was not responding to the chelidonium. I have tried with 30 to 100. It not never worked. So in such types of cases where the patient is in agony, it is our duty to tackle that pain with the help of antipathic measure. I asked my wife to give her some analgesics with which it settles. Then we have done the USG and USG found to be normal. And till that period, when she returned from doing the USG, it has settled gradually. But sometimes it happens that you have to look for betterment of the patient certain time, and it is the matter of judgment. He will he will not allow either pride or prejudice to obscure his sense of his own limitations, nor those of his heart. Circumstances sometimes arise when the strongest man and ablest prescriber, by reason of the great moral pressure brought to bear upon him by peculiarities of his patient and of the environment, or from lack of time, will be compelled to tide over a period of unendurable suffering by the use of analgesics or of some other measures to meet extraordinary emergency. So even though you know that there is a remedy in homeopathy and if it is not working or you are trying your level best, it is not working. But what is important is patient's sake. If it is emergency, yes, you may say patient that you take the allopathy over there or antipathic measure over there. It does this as a charitable concession to the weakness of human nature, his own perhaps as well as others, without in the least degree lowering his standards and bringing discredit upon himself or his art. So it doesn't make any discredit on your part. He does this knowing perhaps that if he had time and circumstances permitted, he could do better. So sometimes it happens that you have to take the help of certain conditions. but time and circumstances are sometimes, at least temporarily, beyond his control. It is possible to violate the spirit by adhering too closely to the letter of the law. Victory is sometimes gained by appearing to yield, which is quite in accord with the principle of similia, a sort of moral homeopathy. Underline this sentence. This is very clearly as mentioned. If you know that in this matter, if you are sometimes you are not getting the perfect simillimum, it is always better to yield and say that at least you take allopathy over there or antipathy over there, settle that, and we'll get time and then we'll treat the patient. Sometimes it is necessary. Close has said that very important thing. A strategic retreat to another line of defense in war often gives a stronger base from which to launch a successful attack. So this is very clearly mentioned by the clause. Sometimes it happens. It is not always, but sometimes you have to take two two feet back. In cases of renal or hepatic colic, for example, if the physician is firm and calm as well as skillful and possesses the entire confidence of the patient and his family and friends, he may be elevate the agonizing pain and carry such cases through to the happy termination by use of homeopathic remedies alone. He has often been done and when possible is the ideal way. In certain types of acute cases, yes, there are medicines. If we are able to get exact sensation, exact modalities, exact concomitants, sometimes locations, sometimes characteristic thing, yes, you can treat. But it depends on your ability, on your confidence, and at the same time, it depends upon the patience of the patient also. But the physician may have been newly called to the case and our family and not have had time to gain their confidence, complete confidence by the results of his work and teaching. Patients have to be educated in principles and methods of homeopathy by discussion, instructions, and demonstrations, and this requires time. When they have felt and or witnessed the results of competent homeopathic prescribing, they acquire confidence. Some become enthusiastic advocates and propagandists of homeopathy and are always ready to uphold and cooperate with their physician in demonstrating its methods, even in gravest emergencies. Others are interested only in quick results, caring little and nothing about how they are obtained. So he is explaining each and every point. Sometimes if you are new in the field and if you are not damn sure, come back and tell them that you cannot. But if you are sure, then explain to them that it will take little bit time and I will try my level best and I will work for that. If you produce very good results in that condition, yes, these some enthusiasts, they will work for you for new patients. Others are interested only in quick results, caring little and nothing about how they are obtained. The latter are very difficult to hold in such cases, and some of them will continue with conscientious homeopathician, no matter what he does. Between these two classes exists third, the member of which can be interested in homeopathy to a degree that will enable the practitioner to hold them as patient and retain their confidence and cooperation in homeopathic treatment in all but extreme cases. So there are second group that they don't believe and then they are cautious. Yes, if I don't get the result, what if I will not get relief in pain, and they goes to the other. And third is who is in between. They are not too enthusiastic. They are not too opposite. This is the third condition. It is in such cases that the pressure referred to will brought to bear upon him, and he may be compelled to resort temporarily to the palliation to gain time and strengthen his position. Unless he can do this, there is but one honorable course left for him to pursue: resign the case and withdraw. In pursuing either of those courses, the conscientious practitioner is beyond the criticism of all fair-minded persons, but he is always open and frequently subjected to the attacks of prejudice, bigotry, and jealousy. And to these, the best defense is silence and clear conscience. So what he says, if you are not damn sure in such types of cases, it is always better to withdraw, come and tell the patient, yes, I'm not confident to treat this. And first settle that condition, and then I will work for your patient. I will work hard to recover him completely. So every pros and cons he has tried to explain over there, how to do homeopathic practice and how to do it successfully, where there is a scope and where there is no scope. The specific line of demarcation which he has explained with the help of DEX 5 exclusion criteria, at the same time additional 5 criteria which has been explained by Stuart Close. So we have finished one more important chapter from the fourth year syllabus, that is the scope of homeopathy, and this is very important from exam point of view. Tomorrow we are going to start with the another chapter, the unity of medicine, and it is again important chapter from practice point of view also. So we'll start not tomorrow. Yes, definitely we'll have a close session, but tomorrow will not have materia medica session. Today evening we're going to meet with materia medica session, one more small remedy from the fourth year syllabus. So thank you, and we'll meet again tomorrow.